Hello friends, welcome back to Wawa AS. Welcome to this discussion on Vision Economy PET 365. This is part 14 where we are going to continue with the topic industry and associated issues. We have covered all the topics from 1 to 6. This is the 7th topic. So if you haven't watched, I'll leave the link in the description, the link of the playlist. You can just go and watch it. Now let's begin. So here the first topic what we have is the MSME sector. So this MSME means micro, small and medium enterprise, and in India it is classified as per the investment and the annual turnover. And now what is the investment and what is the annual turnover for micro, small and medium industry we will see. So just how to remember, I'll tell you in simple words. So micro, small and medium, these are the three kinds of industries. Okay, and one is investment, other is turnover. So remember these numbers: 1, 10, 50, right? 1, 10, 50, and 1 into 5, 5, 10 into 5, 50, 50 into 5, 250, 1, 10, 50, 5, 50, 250. That means 1 crore. Okay, so 1 crore is the investment for micro industry. If the investment is 10 crore, it is called as small industry. And if the investment is up to 50 crore, then it is called as medium industry. This is one type of classification. And there is second type of classification where annual turnover is taken into consideration. So if the turnover is up to 5 crore, then it is called micro industry. If the turnover is up to 50 crore, then it is called small industry. And if the turnover is up to 250 crore, then it is called a medium industry. So depending on the either investment or annual turnover, the industries are classified. Now this MSME sector is very significant. It employs up to 124 million people in India, and it accounts for 29% of India's GDP and 45% of exports. That means it plays a huge role in the growth and development of the country. Not only India, if you see, the MSMEs played a very crucial role in the development of various countries. Take for example US, take for example China. So all these countries, it is these MSMEs that will drive the growth, because they are the ones, these these MSME industries are the ones which will in future grow into a big industry. Okay, so if you see these MSME industries especially, they employ huge number of people, and also they employ both skilled as well as unskilled labor. That is the important thing. They also employ a lot of women. Okay, and also the important thing with MSME is that they will be mostly in the underdeveloped cities or less developed cities, not only in the huge and developed cities. That is the important thing. So because of this, the improvement, or you can say the development, will happen evenly in all the cities. This is a huge thing and huge boost for the development of the country as a whole. So that is the reason the MSME is very significant sector for the country. So recently, as you know, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, lot of industries got hit, and it is this MSME sector which is the worst hit, because this MSME sector, they function in such a way, they will depend on all the repayments and the business that will happen day to day. But if the day-to-day business is not happening, if let's say there is a small toy maker, if the toys are not being sold on the road, then this toy maker is going to lose his business, a small toy maker. So this industry which manufactures these toys, it will get affected. So in that way, a lot of MSME industries got affected. So in order to boost them, in order to ensure that they grow, the government has brought in a package for these MSME industries. Because earlier we have discussed about the type of recoveries. In that I told you there are two major recoveries: K-shaped recovery and V-shaped recovery. V-shaped recovery is what we intend to, but lot of experts are saying now we will have this K-shaped recovery. So in order to have this V-shaped recovery, it is very important for the MSMEs to grow, for the MSMEs to come out of the lump and to grow. So that is the reason government has launched this emergency credit line guarantee scheme. Under this emergency credit line guarantee scheme, 100% coverage by the National Credit Guarantee Trust Company Limited will be done for a collateral free loan. Because normally these MSMEs, if you see, either micro, small or medium industries, they are small industries. They don't have huge collaterals. If they want a loan, for the loan there has to be a collateral. But these industries are small, and the owners are also small people. They don't have huge properties to keep them as collateral. So that is the reason the government is backing those loans through this National Credit Guarantee Trust Limited. This National Credit Guarantee Trust Limited, if you see, it is a government company which is established under the Companies Act of 2013, and it manages the credit guarantee funds. This credit guarantee fund which the government will set up, this will be managed by this National Credit Guarantee Trust, right? And under this, A collateral free loan up to 3 lakh crores in total will be given to the eligible MSMEs and interested Mudra borrowers as well as this guaranteed emergency credit line facility. Now, who are these eligible MSMEs? So, the government said that the eligibility for these loans are those MSMEs whose debt or whose loans are only up to 50 crore till Feb 2020. Only those companies will be eligible. Okay, so there has to be, their loan has to be only up to 50 crore. Only those will be eligible, right? And also a lot of money is being infused under this, right? So this is about the credit guarantee scheme. Next one, the credit guarantee scheme for subordinate debt. So a guarantee cover worth 20,000 crore to promote who take the debt from banks to invest in the stressed MSMEs as equity. So normally it is these banks and NBFCs, they will be only giving loans to these small borrowers or these MSMEs. These loans will be guaranteed by this big trust called the National Credit Guarantee Trust. No, this will guarantee it. If in case if there is a default, then from this trust money will be paid to the bank. Now these banks, what they are doing, they are investing in the stressed MSMEs. That means if the MSME got huge hit, if they are not able to pay their earlier dues and all, even in those kind of MSMEs, the banks are investing, and this will also be guaranteed by a credit cover of about 20,000 crores, right? And also another important thing, if you see, there is this champion portal. This is important for the exam. This champion portal is actually launched by the MSME ministry. Remember, this champion portal is launched by MSME ministry, and it helps in hand holding of MSME. Hand holding of MSME means it will guide these MSMEs. It will support. It will help them explore and promote even promote the MSMEs. Okay, to grab the new business opportunities and become national and international champions. So in short, what they will do is, suppose let's say there is an MSME and it is facing issue with regarding to either labor or land or raw material, it might be anything. These issues, it will be solved by the MSME ministry only under this champion scheme. So in this portal, this MSME will raise their issue and it will be solved directly by the MSME ministry. And another important thing is exploration. Exploring means there are various opportunities. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the masks, these masks and the PPE kits and various other medicines, there is a need for these type of things. Immediately what the government has done, especially the ministry, they have directly approached the cloth manufacturers directly. Cloth manufacturers, they have approached and asked them to manufacture the PPE kits. So the government has taken care of the raw materials. The government has taken care of the permissions and everything, and even the government provided them the technology as well. Okay, the government even provided them technology about how to manufacture, because they have all the facilities, everything. They have the manpower, they have the machinery, everything. It is just that they need the technology about how to manufacture them. Okay, and also they also need to know how to change their machines according to the need. All of these things are needed. So the ministry has provided them all of these things. Now India is one of the largest provider or largest manufacturer of the PPE kits and the masks. All this is possible because of such initiatives by the government of India, right? And also promote. Promote is basically the MSME ministry, or you can say the government will promote the MSMEs who are doing pretty good in terms of the quality and everything, so that they will become popular nationally as well as internationally, because exports are the ones very important for MSMEs, right? And also there is full integration of this champions portal with the CPGRAMS, that is centralized public grievances redressal and monitor system. So what is CPGRAMS? It is basically that portal where a any citizen can raise a complaint with regarding to any department or ministry. Directly they can raise a complaint. Okay, so and this will be solved by the respective department or ministry. If it is not solved, then it will be directly going to the higher authorities. Even the customer or the citizen, he can track about about the process, like till where it went and what is the status and everything. The citizen can check directly. So this is called CPGRAMS. So now this portal is also fully integrated with this CPGRAMS, so that these MSMEs will get their issues solved soon. And another important change that was done recently is the MSMEs will now be known as Udyam according to the government, and their registrations will be called as Udyam registrations. Okay, so remember Udyam means MSMEs only. Okay? And also another important thing is that now the registration process has been simplified. The MSMEs can be registered just based on a simple self-declaration, unlike earlier. Another important news is about the ANIC Arise, which is nothing but Atal New India Challenge in Applied Research and Innovation for Medium and Small Enterprise. So this is launched by the Atal Innovation Mission, which is under Niti Aayog. This is to promote research and innovation, and this will increase the competition among the Indian startups and MSMEs. So under this ANIC Arise, so under this challenge, 50 lakh funding will be provided for the speedy development of the proposed technology. Okay, so this is important thing. And next important thing is it is driven by ISRO and 4 ministries combinedly: the Ministry of Defense, Food Processing, Health and Family Welfare, and Urban Affairs. Because normally if you see, there are a lot of issues that the government is facing. If these government issues can be solved using technology, then that is a great thing, and for that only the government is providing all of these initiatives. And the e-commerce portal, it is going to be launched in future by the MSME ministry, but currently the business plan and everything is being worked upon. It is not yet finalized, but if it is finalized, there will be an e-commerce platform especially for the MSMEs. So what will happen is that all the small MSME industries, now they will be able to directly have a platform to sell their products. Even they can innovate new products, because now what is the major challenge? Reaching the customers is the major challenge for these MSMEs, because they will not have huge money for the marketing. Let's take for example, there is a bulb manufacturer who manufactures very quality bulbs, and also at a less price. But there is a challenge, because he is not able to reach a customer. If there is a bulb manufacturer in Tamil Nadu, he cannot reach a customer in Delhi directly. Even he don't have the money to invest in marketing as well. So that's why if there is a e-commerce portal from the government itself, like for example similar to that of Amazon, you can say through Amazon a seller from somewhere in Tamil Nadu is able to sell to a customer in Delhi or somewhere in Northeast. So for MSMEs especially, the government is now trying to set up an e-commerce platform. Okay, but now because of a lot of issues, it has not taken off. But soon, maybe in the next couple of years, let's hope that this will take off. So next important news is about the textile industry initiatives, which is the first one is technical textiles. So technical textiles, if you see, these textiles are nothing but the ones which will be used in the industries. Technically they will be used. The technical specification is very important. What is their strength? What is their tensile strength? What is their how much it can expand? Okay, how much it can withstand the stress. So all these factors will be there. How much heat it can tolerate. So all these factors will be there because they will be used directly by various industries. So that is the important thing. These technical textiles, if you see, they are divided into 12 major segments. So here they are given the agrotech, the ones which will be used in the agriculture. For example, you might have seen a beekeeper. So he will be wearing a different kind of textile so that the bees will not bite him, will not be able to bite him. So that can be one example. Next is the meditech, the ones which the type of clothes which will be used by the doctors and the nurses in the hospitals, and also the bed sheets which will be used in hospitals, the curtains which will be used. All these will be different kind of materials. So that comes under meditech. So next one important thing is the mobile tech. So mobile tech means, here it is given cars, ships, aircrafts, etc. Everything that is used by automobiles. In simple words, for example, a seat belt. A seat belt you might have observed a seat belt in a car. It will have different kind of strength. A different kind of material will be used. And the seat covers, if you see, that also comes under this mobile tech. So like that, if you see, the build tech, cloth tech, various kinds of technology, the geotech which will be used by the construction workers. So all these things. Okay. So these are the technical textiles. Now for this technical textiles, government seek to set up a export promotional council. Now you have to understand what is this export promotion council. So basically, normally for exports, they have different specifications. All the exports will have different specifications. Okay, some exports, for example, they need a specific type of requirement. They need a specific type of quality. They have to follow specific type of norms in manufacturing. All of these things have to be done. Only if these things are done, then it can be exported. So in order to ensure all of these things are followed, and in order to ensure that exports take place, the government has has thought to set up this export promotion council. We have this export promotion council for the MSMEs as well. Now government is planning to set up this export promotion council for the technical textiles. This export promotion council, in simple words you can say, they will be middlemen between the company, that is the small industry, and the export destination. They will be somewhat kind of a middleman who doesn't charge much but give all the valuable inputs to the industry. Okay, and also they will help the industry to grow and to follow this, to meet the specific requirements as that of the export. That is the main aim, because as this is a government initiative, it is advantageous and everything will be at less cost as well, right? So that is the export promotion council. So yeah, so if you see here, it is given a dedicated export promotion council will be set up for the technical textiles especially. Okay? And so this intends to position country as a global leader in technical textiles, and it aims an average growth rate of 15 to 20%, which is a good aim, and India even can achieve that also. Okay? Because we are one of the largest manufacturer of clothing. Though currently we are facing a lot of competition from Bangladesh and countries like Vietnam, but still India is a prominent country when we talk about the manufacturing of textiles, right? Next one is the steel industry. So steel industry, if you see, India is the second largest steel producer as well as consumer in the world, and this sector accounts for about 2.3% of the country's GDP. 2.3% of GDP. So that means it's a huge sector in itself. So recently the government is planning to set up to actually bring in various initiatives for the development of steel industry. A comprehensive steel policy is being pushed under this Atmanirbhar Bharat, so that we can reduce our import dependency and also we can increase our exports. That is the main aim of the government. And in that, one of the key suggestion which is given by even Niti Aayog is the border adjustment tax. Now you have to understand what is this border adjustment tax. So you might have known there is this tax called customs duty, a duty called customs duty, right? So customs duty is nothing but the tax which is imposed on an importing product. Okay, for example, there is a steel, not only steel, let's take a toy is coming from Korea to India. Okay, then this toy at the entrance gate, they will have to pay a tax called customs duty. Okay, right. So this is the basic concept of customs duty. Now let's talk about the border adjustment tax. What is this border adjustment tax? So as you know, India is a country of taxes, and various taxes are being imposed by the Indian government on the manufacturers. For example, let's take steel industry. Okay, in India, I'll give you a simple example of China and India. We'll compare this. You can even understand this better. China and India, right? So in India, if you see a steel manufacturer, he will have to pay a lot of domestic taxes. For example, electricity duty, the electricity cost and electricity duty. Okay, and duty on fuel duty. There will be duty on various mandis. There will be royalties. There will be biodiversity fees. Okay, and various other charges will be there. These charges have to be borne by the customer itself, right? So in turn, what is happening? The price will increase. The price of the steel will increase, which is manufactured by an Indian manufacturer. But all these type of duties and taxes will not be there for a manufacturer who is manufacturing steel in China. So in turn, what is happening? The manufacturer in China, he will be able to export a steel at a much lesser price than that of India, than that of the manufacturer in India. Okay. So this is the main reason why we are planning to impose this border adjustment tax, because normally there is a limit up to which a custom duty can be imposed. So that is the reason government is planning for this border adjustment tax. So now if it is coming from China to India, what will happen is that in the border, along with the customs, there will be this border adjustment tax. Okay, so this will be calculated based on the duties that the Indian industries, that the Indian manufacturer is also paying. Okay, so depending on that, even this border adjustment tax has to be paid by this exporter. Okay, only then it will be allowed. So now what will happen? There will be this level playing field between the domestic manufacturer as well as this exporter. There is this level playing field, right? So for this only, this is launched. This will be launched. Okay, and there is another question: is it compliant with the WTO norms? Well, to a certain extent, yes, because Indian government say that this is in line with the with some rules of the WTO, because some other taxes can be imposed for a level playing field of the domestic producer, right? Right. Now let's move on to the next one. So next one, some initiatives for the steel industry are given. The first one is Mission Purvodaya. So this is launched by the Ministry of Steel in partnerships with the CIA, the Confederation of Indian Industry, and Joint Plant Committee for faster development of Eastern India through integrated steel hub at Kolkata. So there will be integrated steel hub, and the various steel plants will be set up in neighboring states like Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so in all of these states, because if you see this belt especially, it is mineral rich. It is mineral rich, and also they are not much developed. So if we can use these minerals and enhance their manufacturing capacity and develop their manufacturing capacity, so then this region can become a rich region. In fact, okay. And the main aim of this Mission Purvodaya is increasing the capacity, swiftly increasing the capacity and adding new industries, new greenfield industries. Okay. And there is this domestic manufacturing policy which is announced by the government. Okay. So under this, what will happen is that for any government procurement, only the domestically manufactured iron and steel, so DMISP means domestically manufactured iron and steel. Under this, the government for all the government projects, the government agencies will procure steel only from the domestic manufacturers. This is to boost the domestic manufacturing and also give some boost to the domestic producer, right? Okay. So next important thing here is that there is this anti-dumping duty which is imposed on some steel products from China, Vietnam and Korea. Now what is this anti-dumping duty? So as we have discussed already, this is nothing but this is the extra duty which is imposed over and above the customs duty, because if the government feel that these exporters, they are selling steel at a lower price than that of the country of origin. Okay, for example, if a steel is coming from China to India and this exporter is actually charging less in India compared to that of China, then this anti-dumping duty will be imposed. Because what will happen if this steel is dumped into India at lower price, the domestic steel producer will be affected. So to protect this domestic steel producer, India will impose this anti-dumping duty, and recently it is imposed on China, Vietnam and South Korea, right? So in 2017, a national steel policy is launched to scale up India's steel making capacity to 300 million ton by 2030. Okay, currently India is at rank 2, rank 1 is China, and rank 3 is Japan. India is at 2. Okay, right. So these are the information, and this is the map. Okay, this is the mineral map. You can just go through this once, right? If you have any doubt, you can just ask us in the comment box so that we'll get back to you. So next one is about the Ministry of Railways, and they have released the iron ore policy of 2021, which governs the allocation of rakes and transportation of iron ore. Because iron ore, if you see, it is the second most transported good by the Indian Railways after coal. So coal is the largest transporting commodity by Indian Railways. Iron ore is the second most, and India is the fourth largest iron ore producing country. So this is another important thing. Okay, so to meet complete requirement of the transportation of iron ore customers, so the railways have launched this. Okay, because these customers, they want high priority to be given to the iron ore. Otherwise, if there is a delay in the iron ore movement and all, then these companies are going to face a lot of challenges. Because what will happen is, generally the companies, they will, or these freight especially, the priority to this freight is very less, to the freight is very less actually in India. Normally, for a movement of 100 kilometers, if let's say a passenger train takes about, let's say 2 hours, if it takes 2 hours for traveling of 100 kilometers for a passenger train, I'm giving an example. Okay, then for a freight train, this is going to take approximately 15 hours minimum. This is how the freight is traveling in India. So which is a major challenge, and the government is trying to solve this with various freight corridors. Okay, which is a positive step, right? So the next one is about the solar manufacturing in India. Okay, so India recently received proposals for 10 gigawatt solar equipment manufacturing capacity, because as you know, India is a solar rich country, and India is the fourth largest renewable energy. India has the fourth largest renewable energy capacity, and this is definitely going to increase because India is a tropical country, and almost all parts of India at some point or the other, they will be receiving this sunlight. So India has a 9 gigawatt of annual solar module manufacturing capacity and 3 gigawatt annual solar cell production capacity. So as the demand is growing, this can be increased. So recently at the third Global Renewable Energy Investment Expo, the Global Reinvest, Prime Minister even highlighted that India has a lot of demand for the solar energy. So, and even Prime Minister said that it is going to be a $20 billion market annually, right? So this Global Reinvest is basically a investor summit of people belonging to renewable energy area, and this is organized by, remember this, MNRE, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, along with World Bank and others. So who organized the Reinvest? It is Ministry of Renewable Energy. Okay. So next one is about the technologies utilized for solar energy. It is given. So this even it will be helpful for your science and technology as well. First one is the solar photovoltaic cells and the concentrating solar power. Solar photovoltaic cells, if you see, they are based on photovoltaic effect, by which the photon, which is the basic unit of light, this will impact the surface. Okay, and when it is impact, or you can say when it is hitting the surface, some electrons will be released, and then the electrons will move and the electricity will be generated. Now, to understand this, first you have to understand electricity is nothing but movement of electrons. So when a photon will hit a surface, then the electrons get excited and electrons will move, then the electricity will be produced in that what do you call power source. Yeah, it can be called like that, a plate, in fact a solar plate. Okay. So next one is the concentrating solar power. The concentrating solar power, it uses sunlight to heat the fluid. Okay, and it depends on the application as well. Okay, so it can be used to heat water, it can be used to heat various other things. So this is the thing. Next one, the cess based solar manufacturer oppose the basic custom duty. What is this? So what is happening is the central government is imposing a basic custom duty. Okay, basic custom duty on the import of solar gears. That means there are two types of manufacturers, the primary manufacturers and the secondary manufacturers. The people who manufacture the initial solar equipment like solar cells or the solar small panels and everything, okay, they are called the primary manufacturers, and the secondary manufacturers purchase these solar cells and other equipment from these primary manufacturers, and they will be assembling and they will be doing the rest of their work. Okay, so what's happening is currently we are imposing a basic custom duty over the imports with regarding to the solar cells and other things which the big solar manufacturers or the secondary solar manufacturers will be importing. Okay, so because of this, what is happening is they are losing a competitive advantage with respect to the installation of the solar panels. Competitive advantage, because normally if a solar panel is directly imported from abroad without any assembly in India, then that is going to cost less. Okay, so because of this only, these manufacturers, they have raised this issue with the central government. So normally even there are a lot of solar cells and other things which are being manufactured by the CEZ, the Special Economic Zone, but under the CEZ rules, under the CEZ Act of 2005, even if there is any item which we are importing from the CEZ might be within India, might be, so the CEZ is within India, and if any part of India is importing any product from this CEZ, then they will have to pay the customs duty. The CEZ is that land in India which is treated as a foreign land, because already a lot of incentives are given to the companies which are investing in the CEZ. Okay. This CEZ model, if you see, this actually we have adopted this idea from China. China's manufacturing facilities, if you see, most of them are based on this CEZ model only. Okay. So this is about this issue. And recently a 750 megawatt Reva solar power project, okay, this is going to be developed, and this is the Asia's largest single site solar power plant. This is going to develop in some time. And India has an annual solar cell manufacturing capacity of 4 gigawatt, while 10 to 15 gigawatt is the annual demand. So currently if you see, the demand is much greater than the manufacturing capacity. So we need to enhance our manufacturing capacity, and our manufacturers has to get this benefit. So for that, the government need to act on these type of basic custom duty and etc. Right? So next one, if you see, there are key concepts and entities which are there in the news. The first one is Software Product Development Fund. This Software Product Development Fund was initially proposed by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and this is to deploy domestic capital into India's software products ecosystem. Because normally if you see India's software industry, we are mostly service oriented rather than product oriented. Okay, we are not producing any products, we are mostly providing only services. The products, like if you see the Google or Amazon or Facebook, so these are the software products, and these products, if you see, there is no Indian company, most of them are foreign companies. Okay, and yeah, so for this only, in order to promote these software products, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has deployed some domestic capital, and the corpus is about 5,000 crore, with 1,000 crore from government and rest from the industry. Okay, so here what these people will do is, this corpus or this money will be invested as a venture capital fund. So venture capital, if you see, these are large investors or large investment if it is done into any company, and that will be called as venture fund. Okay, so it fills the gap between the capital requirement and the available capital, right? And this national policy, if you see, there is this national policy on software product. It has 5 missions. So the main mission is to bring more software products of India into the global market, and nurture 10,000 startups, with 1,000 being in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Because if you see the software industry, mostly it is concentrated in tier 1 cities. Tier 1 cities are those cities which are mostly developed. You talk about Bombay, you talk about Bangalore, you talk about Hyderabad, you talk about Delhi. So all of these are tier 1 cities. These are very well developed cities, and most of the software industry is concentrated only in these areas. So it is very important, even from the city's point of view, to diversify all these things, because only when you diversify these things, the cities will evenly spread throughout the country. Okay? And also build a cluster based innovation driven ecosystem, and set up national software product mission. So these are the other missions, right? So next one, if you see, the National Productivity Council. So the National Productivity Council is an autonomous organization under the Department of DPIIT, Department of Promotion of Industry and Infrastructure. Okay, this is to promote productivity, and the tripartite non-profit organization, okay, with equal representation from government employees and workers will be there in this. So the NPC was granted accreditation. Okay, it was granted accreditation by the National Accreditation Body, and the Quality Council of India will take care of this National Productivity Council, and this enabled the NPC to start as an independent third-party auditor for the food business operators. So this will become an independent operator. So this is a very good thing, because the quality is a big issue when we talk about all of the street vendors or something. So for them to ensure the quality is maintained, this is a good step. So next is the Apparel Export Promotion Council. So this Apparel Export Promotion Council is you can say this is an intermediary body between the exporters as well as the importers of foreign countries. That means, let's say there is a person A in UK, and he is importing Indian goods. Okay, so B is exporting from India, and this Apparel Export Promotion Council, if you see, you can say this council is the mediator between A and B, in simple words. Okay, so this aims to promote, support and facilitate Indian apparel industry. So that is the main aim, and this is sponsored by the Textile Ministry. So next one is the Limited Liability Partnership. So it is an alternative corporate business vehicle which provide various benefits related to the limited liability of a company. So limited liability, in simple words, if you see, let's say there is a LLP firm. In this LLP firm, what will happen is that there will be various partners who will carry on business on their own terms. So if there is any loss to one partner, then the other partners will not be affected. Okay, so here this kind of limited liability will be there with the owners. So that is the most important concept of this limited liability, and this is governed by the provisions of Limited Liability Act of 2008. Okay, and yeah, so that is all the thing about this limited liability partnership. And for example, if you see the Ernst & Young is an LLP firm. Okay, so like this, so you have KPMG, the PwC, all of these are LLP firms. Next one is the industry status is given to the sports, and Mizoram is the first state to grant this. So remember, Mizoram is the first state to grant industry status to the sports. So next one is the Automotive Solution Portal for Industry Research and Education, and this is called as Aspire. So this is developed by International Center for Automotive Technology, ICAT, and this is an automotive testing and certification agency, and the services and all of these services are provided under the NATRIP, the National Automotive Testing and R&D Infrastructure Project. This facilitates Indian automobile industry to become self-reliant by assisting innovation and adoption of global technological spreads. So remember, who developed the Aspire portal? It is developed by ICAT, the International Center for Automotive Technology. Okay, so that's it friends for this lecture. So next we are going to start with the 8th topic. So tomorrow you will be getting that video. Till then, keep studying and stay tuned. Jai Hind.